Hey fam, I am back, and this is the second video in this with this topic that I'm talking about: name, the concept of name, modern abstraction or an ancient reality. So I touched on several things regarding name in the last video. I touched on several points, I'll put it that way. I do want to remind you though, before I get started here, that about the video. It's going to be in this description box as well. The video that I found, I can't remember the guy's name, but the link is there, and it's called Black Arabs, Persians, Elamites, Assyrians, and Hebrews. And so it's really important as I'm going through this, and I'm providing historical context, and you're going to hear me use terms like Near East, ancient Near East, that kind of thing. I don't want us to get the wrong idea about who was actually in those regions at that time, because we can't look at who those people are today and say, oh, those are the people that were there, or those are the people who are necessarily the direct descendants from the people who were there, because a lot of has taken place, a lot of changes has taken place in 2000 BC. I mean, we're 2,000 years after that, so it's been quite some time. So so that's just something to remember. The other thing that is going to be in this particular description box, and I'll still put it in the last description box, though I didn't mention it in the last video, is a video called The Rise of the Israelites and the Fall of the Global Economy. And this is actually done by NMP, or Knesset Yeshua. And it's done by Brother Judah Emel. And he does an awesome job, I believe, of just bringing out what our purpose is, what our role is as Israelites today. So if it's like, I think it's probably like almost 2 hours. It's a longer teaching, but you could always cut it up if you want, and not cut it up, but just separate it, listen to 15-20 minutes here, 15-20 minutes there. But he does a lot of different videos, and just an outstanding teacher. So I would recommend that you take a look at that as well. But I want to go ahead and jump into what I want to talk about today. Again, I'll be addressing the second part of this piece in this whole series that I'm doing: the image of God, the image of the beast, man, and the condition of society. And as we're talking about this concept of name, we're going to see ultimately how all of these different pieces that I'm bringing together all kind of fit in this broader context, and how these are the concept of name is literally attached to all of those things. So I am going to, in the last video, I read an excerpt out of a book by John Walton, who is an Old Testament, he teaches Old Testament studies, I want to say at Wheaton College, but he's a professor of Old Testament, and he has wrote so many books, and I actually really like his stuff. But this one is called, again, Ancient Near Eastern Thought and the Old Testament, Introducing the Conceptual World of the Hebrew Bible. And I'm going to put that down in the description box as well. So I'm going to read two excerpts here. It's on page 61 of this book. The first one says, "The gods exist on earth only through their function on earth. The gods live only in images, in the kings as an image of God, in cult images, in temples, in sacred animals, in plants, and in objects." And I think that that's really important for us to understand as we're kind of talking about this idea of name, and then also in the broader context of the image of God, the image of the beast, man, and the condition of society, and the way that the ancients in this part of the world would have understood this at this time. To understand that there was a deity, and to know the character of the deity, and to come to know personally the essence of that deity and what that deity was about, the character or the deity made itself known in the context of images, that's how it was seen. So, for example, if we were to even take that and think about the book of Genesis and how man is made in the image of the Most High, well, the Most High is not seen. He's not. I'm going to go to a few passages today in the New Testament, and we'll look at some of those passages where we see that Yah is invisible, but he makes himself known through the things that can be seen. And we can even see that in the book of Genesis, where he speaks and we begin to see things take shape. We begin to see activity in our cosmos. But this is really a indication of his presence, an indication of the reality of him being there and actually moving in the cosmos to bring things forth. So when he said he's going to make man in his image and in his likeness, well, this is how his character, this is how his attributes, this is how the express nature of the Most High would have been seen. And it goes right along with the way that they understood this idea in the ancient Near East. And the way that this is attached to name is because, again, in the ancient Near East, something existed when it fulfilled a function, when it fulfilled a role. It was given a name. And when it was given a name and it fulfilled the role or the function, then it existed. Apart from that, it didn't have an existence. So the existence of the thing was literally understood to be the role that it played, the function it fulfilled, and the name that it was given. And all of those things were connected. So when a deity was revealing itself or its attributes through some type of cosmic phenomena or something that was taking place, and people could see and understand what the attributes were, the name was attached to that. The name was the embodiment of the attributes that they actually saw. And that is how all of this is interconnected. And as I'm kind of building this narrative piece by piece, we're going to see how the whole thing fits when it comes to the image of God, the image of the beast man, and the condition of society, because all of these things are intertwined and connected. So I'm going to now read the other excerpt from the same book, page 61. The cosmic dimensions of the divine the cosmic dimensions of the divine was not confined to the sheer materiality of cosmic elements such as earth, air, water, and so forth, kind of in the way that we would understand those things to be, or to celestial bodies such as the sun and the moon, but rather that it referred to specific complexes of these actions, traits, attitudes, and qualities that were interpreted as cosmic phenomena. So it was the traits, the qualities and the actions of the deity that was interpreted as cosmic phenomena. What they saw going on in their world, or in creation, we'll say, was a manifestation of the attributes, the qualities, and the characters of the deity. And all of these things was embodied in the name of the deity. And so this is what constituted existence in the ancient Near East. So continuing on. So these the actions, traits, attitudes, and qualities that were interpreted as cosmic phenomena in action, and in which humankind also participated. We also participate in that. So Nut, the Egyptian sky god, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, was not so much the sky as what the sky did. So the function of the sky, what the sky did, that was how they understood this deity, this sky goddess. It was her attributes and her character that were manifested as a result of what the sky did. And that was the embodiment of her name. So again, name is not so much a word that is spoken. It's not this modern abstraction like we would understand it today. It literally is an ancient reality. And to the ancients, it was their reality. And it is the way that the deity would have existed. It's how they came to know the deity. I'm going to go ahead and go to a couple other passages. I'm going to go to Hebrews chapter 2. So we'll start there in Hebrews. Let's see if I can. Hebrews chapter 2, and we're going to be going to, not Hebrews chapter 2, Hebrews 11 and 27. Hebrews 11, 27. Bear with me. Okay, so this is really the whole faith chapter, and this one is the faith of Moses. So I'm going to start at verse 23 because I just like the idea of giving verses context. I don't just like to pull them out because I think that's done a lot, and it just sometimes we can kind of misconstrue things if we don't understand the context in which the verse is embedded. So I'm starting at verse 23 of chapter 11 of Hebrews. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hidden 3 months by his parents because they saw he was a beautiful child, and they were not afraid of the king's command. By faith, Moses, when he became of age, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than enjoy the passing pleasures of sin, esteeming the reproach of Christ of greater riches than the treasures of Egypt, for he looked to the reward. By faith, and this is verse 27, he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured seeing him who is invisible. And so I want to stop there for a minute, because I know that a lot of times we have these ideas, even, even in other passages in the Bible where people may have seen visions, and, there were ways that the Most High decided to reveal himself in visions and in dreams and different things like this. But really understanding that in terms of this ontological way of knowing God, like this, like we would know a tree and see what a tree looks like, that's not the way that is. His character and his power, his essence, who he is, his heart, all of these things are manifested in things we can see. It's not that he is that, it's that this power, this divine power that is benevolent and loving and has chosen to reveal himself as Father, as YHWH. He is revealing his character and his attributes in ways that we can see. And as we take on this character in the context of community, through a heart that is transformed and a heart that is changed and a mind that is transformed, then that is the way that we come to know him, and that other people can see who he is based on how we live our lives in the context of community. So the Most High he's invisible. He cannot be seen, and there is at least one passage that actually implies that he cannot be seen, but that he is manifested through the things that we can see, his character. So I'm going to go to Timothy. There are two passages that I want to deal with in 1 Timothy. So bear with me, we'll get there. 1 Timothy. So the first one is going to be in 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 17. And this one says, let's see here, where do I want to start? For this one, I think I'm going to I'm going to just read 17, okay? And it says here, now to the King, eternal, immortal, invisible, to God who alone is wise, be honor and glory forever and ever. Amen. So again, just like we read about in this little excerpt I did with the Egyptian sky goddess, it wasn't that she could so much be seen. And forgive me, because I'm not comparing the Most High to this, Egyptian goddess. What I'm comparing and comparing is how the deities were understood. So the deity was not something that people could see in the sense that we see a tree, or that we see a car, or we see a flower. They weren't seen in that way. They were seen in terms of their attributes and their characteristics, how they lived, how if mankind obeyed certain or took on certain attributes, or we saw it in cosmic phenomena. This is the way that they were made known in what can be seen, but they themselves were not necessarily able to be seen. And so we have this same, because this is all part of the ancient world, in a lot of these same regions, they held the same belief system. So this is why that a lot of these passages were written the way that they were, because this is the way that the early hearers or the ancients would have understood it. So that's 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 17. Now we're going to stay in the same book, and I'm going to go to chapter 6, verse 16. And it says here, all right, so in talking about the Most High, the Apostle Paul is speaking, who alone has immortality, dwelling in unapproachable light, whom no man has seen or can see, to whom be honor and everlasting power. Amen. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how, when it talks about how the Most High appeared to Abraham. And, a lot of times we might take that to simply mean, oh, like he appeared, like we can see something like something like a a butterfly or a bee, like appeared in that way. And I'm not saying that there couldn't have been some kind of something like that, but when you actually go in and study it, it could also be something that's perceived. It's almost like someone says, oh, I can see what you mean. It's not that they see something physical, but it's like an epiphany. It's like it is a way of knowing something or someone in a way that you did not know. And it's not something physical. It is something that is revealed in the heart, in the mind, in the conscious. It's a way of knowing that is not maybe tangible in the sense of physical sight, but yet it is still a sight. So, sometimes it really does take for us to begin to kind of look at things and consider things in a different way to get a better understanding of potentially how the early hearers and the ancients would have understood it, which could be quite different from the way that we understand it. So the last one verse I'm going to go to is in Romans chapter 1, verse 20. And there are some other ones. You could go to Colossians 1:15, Exodus 33:20, and 1 John 4:12. Those are also passages you could go to. But I am going to go to the book of Romans chapter 1, verse 20. And that's the last passage I'm going to share in terms of the invisibility of Yahweh. Let's see here. All right, so it says here, and this is when Paul was talking about people who suppress the truth and unrighteousness, like they don't want to acknowledge the Most High, they don't want to believe in him. They know he exists by what they can see, but they're just refusing to acknowledge it. So it says here, I'm going to start in verse 18. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. Because what may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has shown it to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made. So, let me read that again. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, we can't see him per se, but his attributes, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Because although they knew God, they did not glorify him as God. And then there's some other things that I kind of stopped in the middle of verse 21. But like you could go and read that, and then you can see the whole context. But my point is this goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. We have this way of thinking about God, about his name, about all these different things that could be very different from the way that the ancients understood it. So here Paul says his invisible attributes. So these are not things we can see. Like we can't go and put our finger, touch something. We can't put our finger on it per se. But the attributes are made known through what we can see, because the Most High makes himself known through the things that we can see. Though he is unseen, he makes himself known through what we can see. And it is so important that we understand that, because again, that is the way that the ancients would have understood this whole idea, this whole concept of name. I'm going to go to one more passage, and this one I'm going to go to is, this one is going to be in the book of Exodus chapter 9. And I don't think I went to this one in the first video, but I think that this is something that will also clarify kind of what I'm talking about here. And then I'm going to share two more things, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. So this is Exodus, I believe it's 9 and 16. Okay. 9 and 16. And this is where 18. Okay, so this is where Moses was going before Pharaoh, and the Most High said he's going to make his name known, not just to Pharaoh, not just to the Israelites, but the known world at that time. Everyone was going to know his name. So here it says, and I'm starting here in verse 13 of, actually I'm starting verse 13 of of chapter 9 of the book of Exodus. And it says, then the Lord said to Moses, rise early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh and say to him, thus says the Lord God of the Hebrews, let my people go, that they may serve me. For at this time I will send all my plagues to your very heart, and on your servants, and on your people, that you may know that there is none like me in all the earth. Now, if I had stretched out my hand and struck you and your people with pestilence, then you would have been cut off from the earth. But indeed, for this purpose, I have raised you up, that I may show my power in you, and that my name may be declared in all the earth. That my name may be declared in all the earth. So all of that stuff that we saw take place, the plagues, you know, the frogs, the flies, the blood, the serpent that ate the serpent of Janus and Jambres, the cloud that followed them by day and the fire by night, the parting of the Red Sea, all of these cosmic phenomena, this was the way that the Most High was making his name known. And then when Israel got into the wilderness and he began to, well, actually before they even left Egypt, he began to set up what his government was going to be based on their devotion to him and devotion to each other. That's when they would see his benevolent, loving, merciful character. And that's how that would be known. So this idea of name, again, is not this modern abstraction. It is literally an ancient reality. And if we can begin to insert ourselves in the context of that culture and understand it the way that the ancients would have understood it, we have a far better chance of applying it to our lives in a way that is going to be effective today. And I want to close out with this. It's from the Cultural Background Study Bible, and it's something. They wrote something on major background issues from the ancient Near East, and there's just a little something here that I want to read, and it says here, to think about the ancient world, we can use the metaphor of a cultural river that flowed through the societies and thoughts of the peoples and nations of the ancient Near East. Israel was immersed in that cultural river. It was embedded in that conceptual world. The way that the other cultures understood it, Israel did too. Sometimes God gave revelation that drew them out as Moses from the Nile and distinguished them. But we should generally think of them in this cultural river. Sometimes they were simply floating on its currents. Sometimes they veered out of the currents and stood apart. Sometimes they swam resolutely upstream against those currents. For example, this whole that Israel believed in one God. Well, that wasn't the same way. This was resolutely against the what you might call the cultural currents of the time. The 12 issues identified below, which I'm not going to go into, describe major currents in this metaphorical ancient cultural river. Israel's relationship to those currents varies case by case. Importantly, however, as modern readers, we have no familiarity with that river at all. Our cultural river is very different, whether Israel was floating or swimming. As we read through the Old Testament, we must recognize that they were in a different river than we are. To interpret the Old Testament well, we must try to dip into that cultural river. And so I'm going to leave it at that. And again, I want to emphasize how very different that they understood the concept of name, because this is going to play out a lot as we get into talking about the image of God, even the image of the beast, man, and the condition of society, because all of these have it all comes together. When we in the next video, I'm going to get into the image of God, and I'll probably talk a little bit about the condition of society, simply because when the Most High created Adam and Eve and made them in his image, and now we can understand why they were made in his image and what was supposed to be seen in them, and in the context of community that they were supposed to spread over the face of the earth. We understand whose attributes were supposed to be seen in terms of that image, and why it would even be written that way. And why Genesis, why the writer of Genesis would say, okay, man was made in the image of God, which he was. I'm not saying he wasn't, but I'm saying there was a common understanding, how they understood things. So that man being made in the image of God, man was made to reveal the express nature of the Most High. And that's really what the image is. It's how we know his attributes and his character based on what is revealed in us and through us. And unfortunately, this consciousness, this way of being, when man decided to do something different, he lost that. There was a disconnect. And I'll almost say, fell into a low place from this higher consciousness where he had this connection to the Most High to this lower consciousness. And we saw that in a manifestation of basically trouble. So in the next video, I'm going to jump into Genesis, and we are going to wrap up this whole idea of name, but we'll still see it's threaded throughout. But we're going to wrap that up and get into the second part of the image of God, the image of the beast, man, and the condition of society. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to say shalom. May the Most High bless you and keep you today. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy your time with your family, and we will talk in the next video. Shalom.